All right. And with that, we're going to move on to the news segment. But of course, our sponsors. This week's news sponsor is brought to you by no one. We still have no sponsors. But if you'd like to be a sponsor for this podcast, reach out to me, Rip McAfee at fulldivepodcast.com. It's in the description. It's in the show notes if you don't know how to spell that, but it's RIPMCAFEE at fulldivepodcast.com. All right, let's move on to the first news segment. I'll be presenting this one. Oh, God. I gotta keep my excitement levels down.
It's a topic that is very dear to Rip's heart.
Oh, it's so dear. I didn't even usually I put a paragraph of information so remember this stuff. I did not need it. So Elite Dangerous which is this big space game for those that aren't aware of it. Elite Dangerous, which has VR support, which is why it's relevant to this, has finally released this super long-awaited piece of news. They've got, I wanted to say space legs, but I don't know if anyone's going to really know what that means. They're going to have, you can now leave your ships. It used to be that you were just stuck in your cockpit or stuck in your vehicle, and you couldn't move from that. You just controlled it with your joysticks or whatever. But now you can leave it, and you can go out, and you can, well, not now, at some point in the future, officially, you will be able to leave your cockpit. And I'm so excited.
It's okay. Breathe, Rip. Breathe.
There'll be combat. There'll be missions. They're hoping for a ton of content for the people that want to take advantage of these new features. It will be in paid DLC, but we've only had one previous bit of paid DLC in the entire 5-year lifespan of this game, so that's pretty reasonable.
Oh, well.
So super exciting. Everyone, there's been this big back and forth of everyone what do we want this new big feature to be? Because we knew something was coming, and people were it's going to be atmospheric planets, and other people were no, it's going to be space legs, and back and forth. And we're getting both. We're getting atmospheric planets, and we're getting space legs, which is just, it's gorgeous.
That's a pretty big deal. I remember when Subnautica got land, just even a little tiny bit of land you could walk on, and people went nuts. So for that to be happening is pretty crazy. I haven't played Elite Dangerous yet, but that actually gets me more excited because that makes me think of more like a No Man's Sky, not just a cockpit game. That gets me more excited to want to go play it. What does this mean though for HOTAS players?
Okay, so that is the weird part, because I just, if you're set up and you're because a lot of people that play this game get really into it, and they've got a full, even without VR, they've got a full cockpit basically made, kind of like how racing sims can get kind of crazy that way. Same with space games. And I guess now they're gonna have to make sure they incorporate their actual keyboard and mouse in order to go do combat, which might be a bit of struggle, but they'll have to deal with it because combat's awesome. So that's what they're gonna have to do. It is the biggest question for me is how much VR support is this gonna have? Is there gonna be any VR support for these space legs? So far they've been really good about the VR support for every new feature they've added. So there isn't any evidence that they won't have support for it. But it is a bit of a struggle to picture how they're going to do it, because so far, every bit of the entire interaction of Elite Dangerous is entirely through either as anything as simple as a Xbox controller or a more expensive I forget what the acronym.
Flight stick. HOTAS.
Flight stick. Yeah. I was going to say HOTAS, but I realized not everyone knows what that means. So yeah, you need a flight stick, and I do wonder what that's, because if I'm in VR and playing the combat, am I just gonna be looking through my headset and have to control my character with my mouse? I don't know. I believe Subnautica. Yeah, I believe Subnautica and what's it? Alien Isolation also don't have support for the actual VR controllers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so Subnautica doesn't really, I wouldn't even say it really has true VR support. It is a mess when you try and play it. It is not built to be played in VR. It's just as something that you can kind of do to experience it. But like the controls don't work right. You can't hardly see the menus because they're too small. It's not built to be played in VR.
And
Mhm.
that's really unfortunate. It sounds like I've played a couple hours of Elite Dangerous, and that is a game that they really felt like, even though it was a flat game first, they have really put some effort into making it very VR compatible, and it is a joy to play it in VR. And it's a real shame when games say that they have VR integration and really don't.
Mhm.
It's just like, hey, we have all these cool props, view them in VR, and then do nothing else.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's a shame.
Mhm.
But I hope that Elite Dangerous keeps up the standard of making everything very comfortable in VR with this next update.
Oh, I'm so excited. So excited.
I might have to
Yes.
get into it for this now. I'm
Yes.
interested now.
I know,
It is
right?
quite an investment. It is quite an investment.
Uh,
I'll walk you. You know what? They've got like some really solid. I've said this before, but I'm saying it again. They've got really solid tutorials. I'll help you through what tutorials don't cover. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Sure, we can stream our cataclysmic first flight on it in Elite Dangerous.
Please.